Morning everyone, this is Brian at brianmcmanusrealestate.com, and we're doing some auction training today. And before I get into the calls, and I have been a bit slack, you'd note that haven't put one of these up for a wee while, and I have been doing them, by the way, not every day as I normally do, because I've got a little bit lazy with if you're selling auctions before auction. You tend to get a little bit lazy, or I do. Anyway, we're back into the swing of things. I'm just going to deal with a couple of things in regards to the auction. First of all, from the vendor's perspective. So, coming to auction, 80% of the auction is all about marketing and bringing people in. And you'll notice on with our marketing, our social media marketing, we're sitting at about 1.8 million, 5.8 million views at the moment on Google. You know, that's driving buyers into your properties. So we touch on the fringe, the main market, Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, Gold Coast. And then, once we've got that market covered, we bring, we target market. So, and that's on all the social media, Facebook, etc. Insta, not on X. Don't find any value on X. So, it's just one of those things. And the websites are they're really passive buyers and low-end buyers now, we find. Not great value. We find, and have found for the last 3-5 years, social media marketing far more important. You also notice our social media marketing in Shanghai. We've had some great buyers come through in the last wee while, last 12 months. So that's pretty exciting, and we've got something exciting coming up. So that's the part that committing to the marketing, it's all tax deductible, having good quality marketing, we're already generating. All you're doing is tagging on the back of our social media marketing that we've done in the past and we're doing now. So we're getting every 2 or 3 days about 100,000 new views. So that's new views from new people. It's pretty cool. So that part of the marketing, we've put that in place. We've attracted people to your property, to your business. What happens next? We have to have our profit and loss in place, our chattels list in place, our contracts in place. So they're the 3 things that we get to the buyer's solicitor and bank or financial institution immediately, even if they're paying cash. So that's part of the auction process, and we're already dealing with a higher qualified buyer. So part of our process is that you've got buyer inquiry and buyer inquiry that we qualify. So let's say we have 10 buyers. Of the 10, none of them drag us around, not one. So if they tell us, let's say that the property's at 10 million, if they tell us they've got 10 million, we then qualify that. Well, who's your financial institution? Who can tell us and qualify you as a $10 million buyer? Now, red flags are, no, we won't tell you. Fair enough. So we don't deal with them. We don't get dragged around by somebody telling us they've got $10 million. They can even go to contract. We've had that before, especially last year. They go to contract. They don't pay their deposit. They don't have their money in place. They then start using our valuers, our financiers, and they come up with no money. It does happen. But our financiers and our valuers are very straightforward and and don't muck around, which is good. And having that in place, we've got the 4 trading banks now, we've got private funders as well, we've got 3 valuers that value for mortgage purposes. So all that taken into consideration, the buyer can choose and pick and choose, but they come back qualified. They won't drag us round for months on end telling us they're going to get the money from somewhere else, and we don't work with them anyway if they don't qualify. So we've qualified them, got them in the process. We're moving quite right along. We've got 2 or 3 that have got contracts, the certified accounts, what am I missing? Contracts, certified accounts, chattels list, and ready to bid. So come auction day, we've got those qualified buyers. They might not be in the room these days. You know, COVID brought in this online bidding. So I run it a wee bit different. Every individual auction has its own link. So you don't see the whole auction, you only see what you are part of. So as a vendor and as a buyer. And that's the way we run it, and we run that auction as long as it takes to do the deal, and then we move on to the next one. So four auctions might take us 3 hours, or it might take us 40 minutes. The goal is to sell them, and that's how we it's a point of difference really. When I'm the auctioneer, or I bring in another Brian as our preferred auctioneer, he's booked all day. I pay for him all day, or I'm booked all day to sell these properties. There's nowhere else to run off to call, which is pretty good. So we've got them online. You're there online as well. I've got them on another screen, but they're online. I can mute them, talk to you, and sometimes I mute you, talk to them. You know, getting them up, making sure we're still in their comfortable purchase price level, because it's willing buyer, willing seller, but their deals are unconditional. I think we lost sight of that probably 18 months ago, and certainly last year, where we had a number of properties go up, and suddenly the vendors put reserves up, you know, and the only thing that stops a successful auction is an unrealistic reserve. And with an unrealistic reserve, they can't raise any more money than what the business supports. I say that again, they can't raise any more money than the business supports. We are not part of the residential booming house market. We are separate. So unless you're a luxury home and we're selling that for you, the hotels, motels, caravan parks, they must stack up at the end of the day. And it's a business decision. So let's move right along. So hopefully that clarifies a few things. Why do we do it? Buyers are cash, unconditional, 10% deposit, and settlement in 30 days. Buyers are qualified. Vendors in control, and we're giving the market everything they need. A contract, chattels list, profit and loss, certified, not just a spreadsheet, certified by a chartered accountant over the last 3 to 5 years. Okay. Auction day. So let's run through my calling process. Everyone has a different style. Now, some are rapid, a little bit rapid and out of control. Some are slow, some are quiet. Brian, many years ago, Brian and Paul White used to come out and call my auctions in the 80s out at Springwood in Brisbane on a Saturday afternoon. And quite a privilege it was as a young 21-year-old to have them come out, and even Al and their dad used to come out and call. So they never lost sight of the real market. And they had different styles. There's the booming voice, there's a rapid. Brian was quite quiet, but at the end of the day, we're always looking at results, and Brian closed. His closing rate was really high, which is cool. Okay, I'm going to run through some of the Missouri Auction School voice bidding, and you'll notice that mine's controlled so that A, the vendor can stay with me, and B, when I bring the buyers in, you'll see there's a matter of control. Don't like it getting too excited. Why is that? It's out of control. So we want to make sure we get every bid. Everybody gets a chance to bid, and if they need a little bit of time, we give it to them. We're not talking about potatoes or carrots here. We're talking about luxury homes, hotels, motels, and businesses. Okay, moving right along. Missouri Auction School. These guys are pretty cool. Right, moving straight into it, and I might be straining my voice a little bit today. 1, would you give 2? 2, would you give 3? 3, would you give 4? 4, would you give 5? 5, would you give 6? 6, would you give 7? 7, would you give 8? 8, would you give 9? 9, would you give 10? 10, would you give 11? 1, would you give 2? 2, would you give 3? 3, would you give 4? 4, would you give 5? 5, would you give 6? 6, would you give 7? 7, would you give 8? 8, would you give 9? 9, would you give 10? 1, would you give 2? 2, would you give 3? 3, would you give 4? 4, would you give 5? 5, would you give 6? 6, would you give 7? 7, would you give 8? 8, would you give 9? 9, would you give 10? 1, 1, would you give 2? 2, 2, 2, would you give 3? 3, 3, 3, would you give 4? 4, 4, 4, would you give 5? 5, 5, 5, would you give 6? 6, 6, 6, would you give 7? 7, 7, 7, would you give 8? 8, 8, 8, would you give 9? 9, 9, 9, would you give 10? 10? 1, 1, would you give 2? 2, 2, 2, would you give 3? 3, 3, 3, would you give 4? 4, 4, 4, would you give 5? 5, 5, 5, would you give 6? 6, 6, 6, would you give 7? 7, 7, 7, would you give 8? 8, 8, 8, would you give 9? 9, 9, 9, would you give 10? 10? 1, would you give 2? 2, would you give 3? 3, would you give 4? 4, would you give 5? 5, would you give 6? 6, would you give 7? 7, would you give 8? 8, would you give 9? 9, would you give 10? 1, bid them on 2. 2, bid them on 3. 3, bid them on 4. 4, bid them on 5. 5, bid them on 6. 6, bid them on 7. 7, bid them on 8. 8, bid them on 9. 9, bid them on 10. 1, bid them on 2. 2, bid them on 3. 3, bid them on 4. 4, bid them on 5. 5, bid them on 6. 6, bid them on 7. 7, bid them on 8. 8, bid them on 9. 9, would bid them on 10. 1 would you give 2? 2, would you give 3? 3, would you give 4? 4, would you give 5? 5, would you give 6? 6, would you give 7? 7, would you give 8? 8, would you give 9? 9, would you give 10? 1 would you give 2? 2, would you give 3? 3, would you give 4? 4, would you give 5? 5, would you give 6? 6, would you give 7? 7, would you give 8? 8, would you give 9? 9, would you give 10? I'm bid at 1 million, bid them on 1 1. I'm bid at 1 1, bid them on 1 2. I'm bid at 1 2, bid them on 1 3. Bid them I'm bid at 1 3, bid them on 1 4. I'm bid at 1 4, bid them on 1 5. I'm bid at 1 5, bid them on 1 6. I'm bid at 1 6, bid them on 1 7. Bid them on 1 7, bid them on 1 8. I'm bid at 1 8, bid them on 1 9. I'm bid at 1 9, bid them on 2 million. I'm bid at 2 million, bid them on 2 1. I'm bid at 2 1, bid them on 2 2. I'm bid at 2 2, bid them on 2 3. First call, second call, third and final call, sold. And there we have it. Just a quick one today. Just in the groove. That's pretty much how it happens. And we might sell it in 30 seconds. It might take 10 minutes, but they sell. The auctions are selling at the moment, ladies and gentlemen. So get on board. Give us a call. Give us an email. Brian at brianmcmanusrealestate.com. 040-297-0217. And let's get your property on the market and sold on the 30th of August.